Hi everyone, this week we're going to be taking a look at an old ASUS laptop that I picked up, and as we can see here it is running quite hot and not playing this game very well, so we're going to fix that today. So it's running up at 92 degrees, which is so hot that it is taking down the core clock of the GPU, which is why we're only seeing 30 frames per second in this game, which kind of looks like crap. So what we're going to do is take out this weird configuration. It has two solid state drives installed, one 60 gigabyte and one, I believe it's a 250 or maybe a 500. But we're going to get rid of the 60 because I don't know why it's even in there. And we're going to get a fresh install of Windows. Of course, we're going to have a blue screen for that. So once we get that installed, we'll reinstall the game and check again. So what I've done here is simply set a fan profile so that the fan can spin faster and keep it running cooler. It is running a lot colder, gets to 51 degrees, which is fine. We can run it just like this, but what I'm going to do is tear it down and replace the thermal paste. Pretty much what I do with everything that I own. This is from 2014, so doesn't look like it's really ever been opened, so we're going to tear into it and get it cleaned up, see if there's any dust in there, and get the thermal paste replaced and just see what it looks like on the inside. So let's get into it. So while we're doing this extremely long tear down of this laptop, tons of screws, tons of cables, let's just check out the specs on it. So it came out in 2014. It's an ASUS ROG G751. 17-inch screen, it's a 1080p display, and 60 hertz refresh rate. What's cool about this one that a lot of new laptops don't have is it's a touchscreen because it originally came with Windows 8.1. I have my own feelings on Windows 8, but we'll get past that because we have Windows 10 now. Touchscreen is kind of useful. I used it a few times and then saw fingerprints on the screen and thought I'll just use the mouse. This is pointless, but it's nice to have if it's something that you are going to use. This does have two hard drive or solid state drive slots, so if you want to add or hard drive storage to it, there is space, so you don't have to just replace it. You can add one and keep your existing files. That's nice. My new laptop has a single SSD slot, so the only way to upgrade your storage space is to replace the SSD and start over or transfer your files externally. This does have a bit of an old graphics card. It has the GTX 860 mobile, so definitely dated, but the recommended for Grand Theft Auto 5, because that's so old and we're still waiting for 6, is just a GTX 660. So this runs the game fine. It still has 2 gigabytes of VRAM, so you can run all your older games just fine. You're definitely not going to be running Cyberpunk on this very well if it runs at all. The processor is an i7 4710HQ. It does have 4-core, 8-thread, so you're perfectly fine for running any older applications or anything web-based runs perfectly fine on it. Just browsing through YouTube or anything works just fine. And it does have an iGPU so that you don't have to be constantly running that GTX 860 just for basic tasks. Really saves on battery life switching over to that. And the last really nice thing this has that most, if not all, new computers aren't going to have is a DVD drive. So if you are buying this for older games, a lot of them are going to be disc-based. This has it built right in, where most of the new laptops either don't have the space or nobody needs it, so they just don't include it anymore. Definitely a plus for this laptop. Alright, and 10 years later, we're finally able to get to see the inside of the laptop. We get the keyboard lifted up here, get the ribbon cables disconnected, and then you can see the only RAM modules that are installed are the two on top. So this actually has 4 RAM slots, 2 that are easily accessible from the bottom, and 2 on top. So it gives you access to a total of 32 gigabytes, which for 2014 was really more than anybody needed. So the 16 that's on board now is plenty. I'm going to leave it at that, but it is nice that this is upgradable. My newer ASUS laptop from 2020 has a single upgradable stick. The rest is soldered to the board. So if you want to upgrade it, you have to buy a single large stick and install that. and it's not going to be the same speed as what's on the motherboard already. So kind of a weird configuration, but this is nice. We'll go ahead and disconnect the rest of the cables and get the motherboard removed, and then we'll get the fans cleaned out and the heat sinks themselves, get any dust removed. It's really not that bad in here, but there's definitely a layer of dust from being used over the years. So we'll just get it all cleaned out and get the thermal paste done. You can see the paste is pretty dry, so we're just going to get that all cleaned off. Surprisingly, it wasn't running too bad with this in there, but I want this to keep running as it actually works pretty well. So we'll get this all replaced, and hopefully this thing will live a nice long life. The only thing I'm not going to be able to fix is there is a crack on the side of the case, which I don't have the piece, so there's nothing to glue back or even try. So it'll be a little bit ugly, but it'll still run well. One thing that I am going to fix, which I may have even broken myself, are the standoffs for the screws that broke off. So we're just going to use a little bit of super glue and get those on. They aren't screwed directly in, so all they're doing is taking up space. So we just want them to be back in there so that there's no rattling with the case or any weird creaky noises. So we'll get those glued back in. One less issue with this laptop. The only other issue this laptop had when I bought it was that the touchpad buttons wouldn't click. You can still use the actual touchpad itself and click with touch, but you couldn't click the buttons underneath. So I did take it all apart, try to clean it. It took forever, really boring, but it ended up just needing to be replaced. It's pretty common with these. You literally just take out these 2 screws and the 2 ribbon cables and pop it in and it's replaced. That took care of that issue, so that's working well. I didn't have the new one when I made this video, but it did get installed and is working fine. Let's hit the power button and see if I broke it. Lights on the keyboard and screen is lit up. Good sign. Looks like this is going to be working. I'm just going to finish getting it back together, do a little bit more cleanup. There's some nasty stickers on the bottom. We want to get rid of those and just have that nice flat black finish instead of old sticker residue. Alright, let's try out Grand Theft Auto, and we're just going to use the stock fan profile, so no extra fan noise. It's running at just about 40 degrees, but that will go up after I play for a while. I did give it a few hours, and it never got above 60 degrees with no extra fan noise, so this is fixed. Thanks for watching.